Hi, this is Trey Pass. I'm doing a reaction to another Mr. Nightmare video. I love his videos, and this one is called 3 Creepy True Horror Stories. So let's get right to it. I'll be right back. Okay, let me put my headphones in. Okay, here we go right now. Go. 3 Creepy True Horror Stories. Story 1.
I was house sitting for my grandma one weekend while she went to Florida with some of her church friends. I was sleeping in the guest bedroom next to her room. The guest bedroom always had 2 twin beds inside of it that my brother and I would sleep in when we had sleepovers at her house.
Okay.
I took the bed next to the window, but before getting into bed, I checked all the doors making sure they were locked.
Okay.
When I did get into bed, it was early, and I didn't actually go to sleep for a while. There wasn't much to do at my grandma's house. I was just on my phone for an hour or two, watching videos, texting people, whatever. That's when I thought I could start hearing someone's voice outside. It sounded like a woman's voice, saying hello. I left the bedroom and inched my way closer to the front door, moving slow because I was trying to listen.
Hello.
It was a woman's voice, just going hello like every 10 seconds. As I got closer to the front door, I realized that's where it seemed to be coming from. My grandma's door doesn't have a peephole, but the windows in her dining room gave a clear view of the front porch. So I went over to that window to attempt to get a view of who was out there.
Okay.
I tried peeking my head in between the plastic blinds without making it obvious. But I guess I didn't do a good job of that, because when I looked, I did see a woman on my grandma's stoop, and she was looking right at me, as if she knew I was going to be looking through those blinds. Once again, she said hello, with some freakish smile on her face. This woman was older, but don't picture her as some innocent-looking, small old lady.
Yeah.
She looked like she was maybe late 50s, early 60s, and something about her face just skeeved me out. I moved away from the window and thought maybe it was one of my grandma's friends. It was midnight, though. Why would anyone come to the door this late?
Exactly.
And why wouldn't she knock or ring the bell?
Yeah.
Why was she just standing out there going hello over and over? I was genuinely unsettled. I just went back to the guest bedroom and shut the door. Now with the door shut as opposed to before, I couldn't hear that woman anymore.
Okay.
Maybe it was that, or she just decided to leave.
Okay.
I started texting everyone about it, my sisters, my friends, telling them how bizarre it was. But a good amount of time passed in silence, and I was starting to calm down. My sisters were telling me to call Grandma, but there was a 0% chance she was awake,
Okay.
and she barely ever even checked her cell phone anyway.
Okay.
Just like that, something broke the silence. A banging at the window. Not a knocking or tapping, banging. I felt that fierce pain in my chest area as my body entered that fight or flight mode.
Okay.
Shortly after the banging stopped, I heard that familiar voice say hello. With that boost of adrenaline, I guess I had the extra confidence to grab the blind and push it up.
Okay.
There I was, face to face with this horrifying older lady, with only a thin layer of glass between us. I screamed at her smiling, gross face, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah. Call the cops.
I pulled the blind back down and ran back outside to the living room. I looked around the house, then ran upstairs to box myself into the upstairs guest bedroom. I didn't want to actually call the cops.
Why not?
I don't know why. I wanted to just wait it out. I crawled into the bed in the upstairs guest bedroom and tucked myself under the covers. A couple hours later, I was still awake, and I finally only then went back downstairs to look outside each window.
Okay.
That freaky old lady seemed to be gone. The next morning, I called my grandma and told her what happened. She started yelling into the phone, clearly panicking and distressed.
Yeah.
She told me how a few days earlier, she was being watched in the grocery store by some woman about 10 years younger than her, who just kept smiling at her for no reason. I told her to calm down. I didn't entirely know whether to correlate the two or not, but when we eventually got off the phone with each other, I did have to give it a second thought. My grandma is 75, and she has lost a bit of her wits, so I do have to take some of the things she says with a grain of salt.
Okay.
But the way she yelled into the phone about the woman in the store really gave me the chills. And I still wonder if it could have been the same person.
Should have called cops. Story 2. I don't know why you waited. Still call the cops.
My name is Nicholas. I'm currently a freshman at Syracuse University, which doesn't exactly sit in the safest area. I just went through a breakup with my first girlfriend, so I started getting back into the online dating scene. I was using the app Hinge when I found some blonde girl named Stephanie who I really connected with. She also went to Syracuse.
Okay.
We both liked to read, go to the movies, we even had the same sense of humor. I suggested we go on a movie date, and she said she'd love to. She told me to meet her at some specific point near campus and she'd pick me up. So, around 9 o'clock, I waited on some corner of a normal neighborhood block, waiting for Stephanie. She asked me to share my location with her, and so I did.
So,
A few minutes later, I saw a car turn down the street and start approaching me. Then it stopped in front of me, and the driver rolled down the window. It wasn't Stephanie, though, but some old random guy. He asked what I was doing alone out here, which was insanely weird, first of all. Then I said I was waiting for someone. He asked if I was waiting for Stephanie, and I said, yeah, how'd you know? He said he was Stephanie's father, and told me to hop in so he could give me a ride to her.
Nah.
I took a good look at him, and he looked a little old to be her father, to be honest. I'm no idiot when it comes to sketchy situations, so I said in a firm voice, why didn't you tell me you'd be picking me up?
Exactly.
He claimed he didn't trust a random guy meeting up with his daughter, and wanted to meet me first. I took another good look at the man and didn't say anything. I simply started walking away in the opposite direction from where his car was facing.
Okay.
He started yelling, hey, hey, sounding surprised that I was just walking away like that. But I've heard way too many kidnapping stories to know where this could potentially go. I heard the guy's car moving, and I turned to make sure he wasn't doing a U-turn to follow me. I breathed a sigh of relief when he drove straight and turned left out of sight. I continued walking down the block towards campus. I got to the corner of the block and was just about to make a turn when I noticed what I was pretty sure to be the same car the man was driving, just parked on the side of the road with the light shut off. I briefly tried looking into the window as I passed, but the glass was tinted. I tried not making it obvious that I was suspicious and continued walking. I got a text from this so-called Stephanie person saying, why didn't you get in the car with my daughter? I ignored the text and continued walking. I kept looking back to see if the car would move. When I got to an intersection in the road, I turned right and then full-on booked it in the direction of campus. Surprisingly, I wasn't followed. I made it back to campus out of breath and started walking to my dorm building. I felt like I heard footsteps following me, though. I thought maybe I was being paranoid, but when I heard a piece of broken glass being kicked by someone's shoe, I knew I was being tailed. I made a point of ducking down behind a van and stopping to give me time to listen for where their footsteps were coming. They were a few cars away from me. Then I remembered. I never stopped sharing my location with Stephanie, or should I say that man. I saw him. It was that old man. He was approaching from between two cars across from me. He yelled something that I didn't fully understand, but it sounded like he said, come back and I'll take you to him. He had to be like 60-something. There's no way he would catch me if I sprinted. I lost him easily when I ran, and made it back to my dorm room. My roommate wasn't there, so I had no one to talk to about it. But when I lay in my bed, I got another text from that man, and it was shocking. It said, you're a little piece of fucking shit. You're lucky you got away. I would have strangled your ugly ass. I still have the screenshot. I replied saying, thanks for the threat, it's going straight to the police, and I blocked his number. I still have the conversation saved as evidence, and I plan on going to the police with it eventually. Hopefully they are able to do something about it.
Exactly. That's why you don't meet random strangers unless it's a public place. Story 3. Lots of people around.
When I was 18, I had a side job as a part-time janitor at my high school over the summer. I would work sometimes days and sometimes nights, anywhere from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m., depending on how much money I needed. Oftentimes, I would be left to lock up the building when the older janitors have left. This was a time before the high school had cameras installed in every single hallway. So one night, one of my superiors, Tom, had to leave early, meaning I'd be finishing up the rest of my shift alone, and I'd be locking up for the night. He told me to text him if I need anything, as he always did, and then he left. I loved it when I was left alone, because usually I'd just do half an hour of work and then just hang around on my phone or leave early and still get paid for the whole shift. I definitely pushed it with the things I'd get away with at that place. One of the things Tom asked me to do before leaving was bring all the extra seats in the gymnasium from the assembly down to the basement storage room. So I figured I'd do that, then just go home.
Okay.
I grabbed a stack of 6 chairs and started carrying it down to the basement. The lights in the storage room were very dim. They kind of suck. The whole basement of that school wasn't exactly pretty. It felt more like a basement to a warehouse. Anyway, there were what appeared to be a bunch of art mannequins covered by paint cloths. You know, those big things that look like blankets. It seemed all the school's art supplies were stored down here. I dropped a stack of chairs down where the rest of the chairs were stored, and went back up to the gym to get more.
Okay.
When I came back down with more chairs, I noticed one of the mannequins was exposed now. The blanket was removed from on top of it. I know for sure it was covered minutes earlier because it was one of the front ones. I texted Tom saying, I think someone's down in the basement. He said back, what do you mean? And I said one of the art cloths were moved. He took a minute to respond saying no one else should be there.
Call the cops.
Then I noticed something. The art cloth, tucked in the corner of the storage room, sitting outside of the light that was produced at the center of the room. It was covering something, surely. I started to tiptoe over to it, but when I was a few feet away from it, I realized whatever was under that cloth was moving just ever so slightly.
Ah,
There was undoubtedly someone hiding under there.
sir.
I ran back upstairs and locked the basement
Call the
door.
cops.
I texted Tom saying someone is hiding under a cloth in the basement. He said call the cops, but I insisted he just come back since he only just left like 10 minutes ago. He didn't want to come back though. He told me to be a man and confront whoever was
Oh,
down there.
thank you.
So I went down to the basement again. However, the cloth was now strewn flat on the floor, and whoever was hiding under there was gone. But possibly the scariest thing was yet to happen.
Go ahead.
As I stood in the storage room, there were loud metallic thumps coming from above my head. I looked up and saw indents slowly forming in the large air vent above me. Someone was crawling through the main vent, then just stopped literally above me.
Yeah.
And then bangs. Bangs like whoever was in there was trying to break open the floor of the air vent.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening, but I was officially done with this. I ran up the stairs, locked up the school, and went home.
Call the cops.
I told Tom the partial truth the next day, that I thought I saw someone in the corner and it was gone when I went back. Then I claimed there was nothing else I could say. Thank God it was my last week there, so it wasn't my concern anymore.
It's probably just a homeless guy living in there. Probably. More than likely. Probably a homeless guy or something living in the school. More than likely. Man up. Tell you to man up. Go confront. No, screw you. You go confront. Whoever that is. No, you just call the cops. Those are three. There was 3 creepy stories, but the guy, come on, the last story, come on. You should have called the cops when you noticed that that thing moved and somebody's moving ever so slightly. So why you want the guy to come back? Screw it. What he gonna do? Okay, call the cops and say there's somebody, obviously in the, hiding out in the basement. Probably, like I said, probably a homeless guy or something, maybe that sleeps in the school or something, whatever. But call the cop. What the hell you want this guy to come back for? Like he said, what the fuck I'm gonna come back for? I'm not a cop. What the fuck you want me to do? Exactly. No, you call the cops. Well, when he said confront him, I would be a man up and confront him. No, I ain't confront nobody. Because you don't know what that guy got. The guy could have a gun or a knife or something. It would be a complete psycho. No. Take your behind back upstairs, lock the door, and call the cops, and let the cops come down there with their guns drawn and investigate and see what that is. Okay? That's what they're paid to do. So let them do it. Okay? You don't need to be a hero. Okay? Okay? And the second story, well, the first story, the guy should have called the cops. I don't know, because you don't know that lady. Obviously, the grandmother saw that lady, and the lady was maybe stalking. You don't know that lady could be mentally ill or something and fixated on your grandmother. That's why she went back to the house. And maybe, like she's dangerous. Maybe she's not taking her medication or something, and she was basically stalking your grandmother. Or something. Maybe she thinks that's her mother or something because she's off her medication or something. So you should have called the cops instead of running upstairs and hiding upstairs. No, you should have called the cops. When you saw her outside, you should just pick up the phone and call the cops. So there's some creepy old lady outside my grandma's house right now. I think she might be dangerous. Could you please send somebody by? And the cops would come by, and they would have got her. And as far as the second story, that one I think was the creepiest. Like I say, when you're always going to meet somebody, especially on these dating apps or whatever, or Tinder or whatever, come on, meet in a public place with lots of people. That should be the golden rule. That should be the obvious thing to do. Okay, he met a girl he liked and they want to go to the movies, but you were going to wait on a corner, random corner, and wait for somebody to drive by. You don't know if that was a girl you were talking to. Like I said, it was probably that guy who was just waiting. And like you said, you lucky. That's a creepy message saying, "Lucky you got away. You bad." What do you call me? Creepy. You lucky you got away. I was going to strangle you. I was going to strangle you. Yeah, exactly. He was looking for prey, and he was going to probably torture the crap out of you. Exactly. As soon as you got in that car, you probably chloroformed you and probably took you somewhere and torture you to death or whatever. And done a John Wayne Gacy thing on you. Exactly. You don't meet no, but I don't care how great you hit it off with anybody online. Okay, if you want to meet them in a public place with tons of people around. Okay, that's the safest thing to do. Okay, serial killers usually don't meet people in public places. Okay, with tons of people around. Okay, you always meet them in a public place. You can have your introduction, say you get to know each other and all that stuff, and then say goodbye and say if you want to, if you click and buy with that person, again you meet in a public place again. You always have dates in a public place. Do not go back to anybody's house. Don't think with your little head, for guys or women. Don't think think you're gonna you instantly gonna get laid and okay, she's invited me over to her house. Oh, think about it. Okay, there's a lot of dangerous people in this world, unfortunately, and you have to protect yourself. Okay, you have to get to know somebody first and get to know them, before you take that next step of going to somebody's house that you've never been to before. Okay, that's why you always got to meet in public, in a public place where you see them and you know that they're normal and stuff. Sure, somebody could be abnormal after the fact, but don't put yourself in a position to get killed. Okay, and that's what that guy did, waiting on a corner, and some random guy pulls up saying, "I'm her father." Okay, I'll take you to. No, thank. That sounds no, thank you. Okay, no. Meet me in a public place with lots of people around, and okay, lots of witnesses. Okay, and people that can interfere in case you try to go psycho on me. Okay, and like I said, that guy wanted you bad because he followed you. Okay, and he follows you back and doubles you back to the campus. He wanted you bad. That's probably not the first time he's done this either. Too, Zaga, that guy's probably a potential, if not a serial killer, and he was just looking for prey, and you are almost a victim. Anyway, hopefully you contacted the cops and they able to track this guy down and stop this guy from whatever he's done or is about to do. Okay, so anyway, let me know what you think of these stories. They were good stories. Like I said, the second one was extra creepy. Okay, that one I think was the first one. The guy should have just called it. It's a lady. I don't know. The lady's creepy. She's out there. Come on, in the middle of the night. Saying hello, hello, hello. Call the cops. She could be off her medication. Let's get her to. Call the cops. Let her come take her away. And exactly, they can spend the night. Yeah, exactly. Especially when your grandmother confirmed that she saw some lady stalking her. Yeah, so that could have been the same lady. She just fixated on your grandmother and followed her home and stuff. So you never know. But again, the third story. With the janitor thing, again, he should have just called the cops. When he noticed something move, he should say, "You know what? I'm out," and call the cops. Don't call your boss and say, "Oh, you come back," and like you say, "Yeah, well, he telling you to man up." No, you man up. I'm calling the cops. Okay, I'm not a superhero, and it's not my job to defend the school. Okay, so I'll call the cops. I'll call the cops. Let the cops go down there and deal with it. Whoever's down there hiding it. Like I said, it's probably a homeless guy that's sleeping in the school or something. That's probably exactly what it was. And you interrupted them. They were down there, hanging out or sleeping or whatever. And then they saw you come down there and thought you were going to get busted. And that's where they started hitting. And they hit in the ceiling thing up there. And that's where they were stuck. And they were probably waiting for you to leave and stuff. But anyway, then the second story is the creepiest. He got away from a potential, probably a serial killer. But anyway, let me know what you think of these 3 creepy true horror stories from Mr. Nightmare. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description box so you can sub to him. He's the way he tells the stories is great. He has a nice soothing voice, and I like the atmosphere and everything he provides. It makes you really engrossed in the story, and I really like that about Mr. Nightmare. So I definitely like this, and I'll try to be reacting more to more of his stories because he has a talent for these stories, and the way he tells them just gives you the chills, literally. Anyway, I also have a link to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram in the description box, as well as a link to my other channel called Views and Opinions. Please check that out as well. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long and take care.